Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move to correspondence. Is there correspondence for today? We have none. So the business for which the meeting was called is the budget, and I will turn it over to Michelle to present the budget notice and the draft budget.
Good, I see the show. Okay, I'll just shift a little here so I can see everyone. So, good morning, all members of council. So today I'd like to review the draft preliminary 2022 budget. And I have two documents. So I have budget notes, and I also have a 2022 draft budget for review. Did everybody have a chance to read? I sent them last night. Did everybody have a chance to review the documents?
Yes.
And Maria, hear me? Maria, can you hear me?
You are a little in and out. Yes.
Pardon? I know that's the problem here, so I will try my best. Okay, so first off, just some budget notes. So in the draft budget, the operating budget lines have remained constant, with cost of living allowance being included, or adjustments where there has been significant increases or decreases, or additional services or items have been added. Okay. Also, just a reminder, any funds that are surplus at the end of the calendar year 2021 in the operating budget will be rolled over and distributed into capital reserves. Also, any funds that are surplus or unused at the end of the calendar year 2021 for capital projects will be rolled over and distributed into capital reserves.
Michelle, what was the cost of living? What was the percent that you used?
Okay, so the cost of living percent I used was 3%. Okay.
So does that mean that everybody gets that 3% increase? Because last year we voted on, we wouldn't argue about that. So like part-time, full-time, we all get a 3%.
That is the percentage I used. It's in line, so the county of Brantford is using 2.75% for 2022. Other municipalities and the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery are using a percentage for a CPI in excess of 4%. So I felt that 3% was a medium rate or a good general rate to use. Okay. So the budget as drafted, our revenue being raised for 2022 is in the amount of $5,766,632, and the budget as drafted, the expense for the year is $6,429,774. So as you can recognize, the budget is drafted, there is a deficit. So the deficit currently is $663,142. Okay. For taxation, these are preliminary numbers based on 2020 taxation levy. I have included a 5% increase to these numbers for 2022. So that will raise preliminary figures that will raise an approximately increase of $164,000. Then if we look at grants, so the revenue being raised this year through grants is approximately 1.2 million. Okay. We are Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund we saw a slight increase. We also saw a significant increase to our OCIF funding, which we use each year for transportation projects, road projects. Our revenue from other revenue this year is shown as approximately $295,000. These have remained relatively similar to 2021.
Michelle, can we ask questions, or do you want to wait to the very end?
It's probably easier to ask questions as we go through.
So when I'm when I'm looking at the council's salary benefits, any idea why, right,
So my only suggestion is, as we get to that line item, or then we ask a question.
okay, perfect, got it.
Okay, so like we discussed, so this draft budget does not include the actual figures. However, when I was drafting it, I did review them. And what I noticed was there was a number of projects that were not completed in 2021, or items that we didn't purchase. And so for the reserve withdrawal, those are the items that are included in that amount currently. Okay. So we had election of reserves. We had included that in last year's budget in the amount of $4,500. We'd also included in last year's budget, which is a plow truck, which we have not received yet, along with a pickup truck, which we haven't received also. Okay. We also included in the 2021 budget the cost for the gas leachate project at the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center, and there was a number of there was an outstanding amount in the road construction projects. So those items total $840,000. Okay, so that is why this amount is included in the budget currently. So this is just the rollover from projects and items that were not completed in 2021.
So Michelle, so we're anticipating that will be
At the minimum,
but that would be part of what's transferred from this year's unused money in.
yes,
So it's basically the internet.
it's in that, yes.
So just a reminder, council questions should come through the mayor and staff.
Then when we look at the council expenditures, so salaries and benefits remain status quo, the same as last year. One item that has been added to the 2022 draft budget is some capital for the council chambers. So those include new council furniture, in-floor heating, and new flooring for this room. So the draft budget amount for council for 2022 is $245,000.
That's your right,
That's for the mayor to the clerk. So if we kept status quo on our budget for salaries and benefits, then council itself isn't getting the 3% COLA.
It's not included in the budget currently, no.
It's not included in the budget.
And just to follow up on that, I know other municipalities and I know the county, usually in the last year of council's term, you do a review of council remuneration.
Yes.
some of them build in the percentage increase into council salaries, others do a review through a third party, and then reports brought back. So just some information from council. I'm not sure if that's something that they want to explore.
Options for council movement. Then we look at the cost for admin. Some additions, so for 2022, we have included elections costs. So there has been 22,000 included for this item. We also included a reserve fund in the amount of $4,500. Also included has been new office furniture in the amount of $15,000. So overall, the draft budget for admin costs is $942,000. This is a reduction from last year. Then we look at bylaw enforcement. It has remained status quo, other than the cost of living allowance for wages. Then we review the fire department. For 2022, it has remained relatively status quo, other than I have included 50,000 for equipment capital. I also included 50,000 for reserves.
Councillor Edison.
Through the mayor, okay, so I'm just kind of confused on, might be the fourth from the bottom, fire department capital, and then we have a blank there. Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay, so we have two capital accounts. One is for vehicles. And if you see from 2021, there was an amount of $250,000 in there. That was for the purchase of the new truck in 2021. The second line is equipment capital.
Councillor Buckle.
Through the mayor. So with the tanker truck that has been going through the process, do we not need to budget an amount for that in that capital line?
We could, or like I said, so I have included 50,000 for reserves. That is something we can review.
Just a question on the equipment capital. Is there a request from the department on where that will be used?
Yes, Chief Champ has submitted his request for 2022, and the 50,000 is based on that.
Thank you.
So the amount that the fire department budgeted for 2022 is approximately $495,000. Then we look at the building, other, and CMC department. And this has remained status quo, other than the cost of living for wages.
Councillor Edison.
So Mayor, I have a question. So basically the $48,000 to $50,000 for the building inspector, that extra 10,000 is made up by the COLA. Is that what you're saying? Oh, 2,000, sorry.
It's 2,000.
And like, how much do you remember what we were paying Warwick Valley in our shared costs with the inspector?
It was 50% of their cost, and it varied monthly.
So I thought it was around that. So basically, it appears that like our building inspector now, the cost for us is $58,000. That's what we're budgeting for. And the other thing too is I'm wondering livestock mileage / sell. To me, does our livestock evaluator eligible to sell for that too?
No,
So, and then it seems consistently we're not going to the $1,000. I'm just wondering if some point in time that 1,000 could be reduced. And then the dog kennel of $25,000.
Mhm.
We budgeted, and I know now we went to a new method of looking after dogs and maybe cats at large. So is that something that we should keep in there?
So for the 2022 budget, the dog kennel trailer hasn't been included.
Right. So that's why it's left alone.
That,
So we're just keeping it in as a line. Okay, thanks.
we included because it was a budget line last year, and we have to include it this year.
So moving forward, we could remove that dog kennel trailer line from the budget.
Once we get past that year,
Okay,
okay? So the draft budget amount for the building department is approximately 93,000 for 2022.
Councilor.
And just through the mayor, how did you come up with the $8,000 in building inspector mileage and expense when? I know it's not actual because everything hasn't been put through yet, but how come the big jump on this?
So like I mentioned, when I compared the 2022 draft budget, I did review the actual costs for 2021. And anywhere that I felt that there was an adjustment was required, I did add it for the 2022 draft budget. And that was one line item that I felt needed to be adjusted based on 2021 actual.
Okay, thanks.
And like I had mentioned, for the next budget presentation, I will include the actual line items.
Thank you.
Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, you can see it, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I was just a question. I saw that there was a radio tower annual fee. It wasn't there in 2020. Is that a new thing?
It's not a new thing, it's not a new line item. What has happened, we just, in 2021, we changed the way that we coded under our accounts. So that's why you will see it here for the first time.
Okay, thank you.
In 2020, it was allocated to a different DL account.
Sorry, could you say that again, please?
Maria, in 2020, it was allocated to a different DL account.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Then moving on, the leasing costs for 2022 have decreased. So our leasing cost for 2022 is approximately $507,000. Then for public works, items that have been included in this year's budget, we did include 2 additional speed signs. We have increased the gravel contracts. We've included an additional amount for building maintenance. We've also increased the allowance for tools and have included the speed limit study. We've also allocated money for the deepening boat launch. Okay, and plus we also included the cost for the plow truck in 2022 and for the pickup truck. So the draft budget for public works for 2022 is approximately $1.1 million.
So the Deacon boat launch, the money that's been allocated, is that for engineering and labor to move the deck if we get the engineering approval?
So this line item actually isn't for the deck. This is to make improvements to the actual Beacon boat launch.
Okay. Councilor Byrne?
You said, through the mayor, you said the pickup truck was 5,000? Is that an increase in the price?
No, so the 5,000 I budgeted is for the financing costs.
Okay, finance.
The overall purchase price is approximately $65,000. Then we look at rolling stock. This has remained more or less status quo from 2021. We have included the addition of tires for a number of vehicles. So the draft budget amount is $444,000 approximately. Then we look at the landfill and recycling costs. We have included funding for a new contractor bid at Burnt Road site. Also the installation or the construction of a concrete pad at that site. We've also included a new bin at the Shawwoods Road site. So overall, the draft budget for 2022 is approximately $362,000.
Councilor Ivey-Swanton?
Okay, through the mayor, I thought that Burnt Road site had more hours than what Shaw Woods did, but you've budgeted the same salary and benefit. I'm wrong or right there? I just thought that Burnt Ridge was open more often.
It is, yes. And again, that's something we can review for the next budget presentation to council.
Thank you.
Councilor Byrne?
Through the mayor, the last council had put money in reserve for a new compactor a number of years back. Was that not in there, or was that just moved to another?
I will have to review that.
Because I know there was money put away for a compactor a number of years back.
Then we look at the draft budget for recreation. Oh, one more item just for the landfill and recycling. So our portion for the expansion of the leachate system at the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center, that has that amount has decreased. Just to note. Then we look at the recreation draft budget for 2022. We have included funding for new picnic tables. We've also included additional funding for some additional equipment for the ball diamond. And we've also included $130,000 for the trail network. And this is the line item that we have included some additional funding for the deck at Beacon.
Councilor Ivey-Swanton?
Question to the clerk, to the mayor. So the so when I'm looking at the trail network and the $120,000 in the 2021 budget, that came predominantly from our grant, right?
Yes, it was a grant, the grant $100,000, and we were going to provide $20,000 from reserves.
Right, so does that mean now in 2022, we are taking out $130,000, but is some of that $130,000 still the remaining grant money from before?
So yes.
Okay, and the other thing too was, and a long time ago, we said we were gonna give a scholarship to high school students, and that's never happened. Has that got morphed into the swim scholarship now?
I believe so, yes. So we do have a scholarship for the swimming students, for $1,000.
Yeah, because we never did the high school one. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the total recreation budget is drafted is approximately $394,000. And then we look at the proposed road construction for 2022. So we have, sorry? Yes.
Oh, sorry, Maria, I was looking and then I didn't catch your hand.
That's
there.
okay.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, just to, through you, Mayor, to the clerk. Following up on what Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld was referring to on the scholarship, shouldn't the amount be a little more? Because I thought when we made the discussion in the past that we were saying that we were going to do either 2 or 3 scholarships amounts for the high school.
Okay.
And just a clarification, because maybe I don't have my notes with me, and but I just thought the amount would have been a little bit more.
Yes, and so through the mayor, I've noted that because we are going to add that in, the punishments for this one, so we'll add that in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then for the proposed or draft road construction budget, we have included approximately 213,000 for Black Creek Road. We've also included 13,000 for seal coat maintenance for this year. We have included 500,000 for reserves as stipulated last year. And we've also included 370,000 for Crooked Rapid Roads, 197,000 for Black Point Road, 92,000 for construction for Burke Road. Jessup Road, we included 289,000. We included 5,000 for some gravel and upgrades to Wilkins Road. Also, we've included 60,000 for reconstruct culverts on Hewitt's Corner Road, and 35,000 for culvert replacement and easement and drainage system on Island View Road.
Councillor Reiki.
But make sure the mayor, after Green Lake Road, I think that should say on our sheet, it says Black Point Road. Should that say Church Point Road? Maybe, no, that's.
This is, to the mayor, this is down Hope, this is the other end.
Okay, wow, okay. And the other thing too, I was wondering, the culvert on Green Lake Road, is that included in one of these? I'm not seeing.
So through the mayor, any other culvert things that we have is covered in operations.
Okay. And work on Wilkins Road, like, is that different than the trail that we're constructing?
So through the mayor, this is the road itself, it's not the trail, so it's the road that we presently have.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I had a question on Black Creek Road. I thought we were done on Black Creek. What's that additional money for? $215,000.
That's to continue work on Black Creek Road.
So through the mayor, I'll come back to that. The superintendent was talking to Michelle, so I wasn't part of that conversation, but I'll come back to see what was there. But yes, we have done a lot of work on Black Creek.
And the other question I had was in regards to Jessup Road. I took a drive down to Jessup Road this morning, but I couldn't see much because it's covered with snow. I'm just wondering if Jessup Road is in more need of repair than Point Church Road.
So through the mayor, and just scroll up to Jessup, so we have that council. Council may want to consider roads like Jessup Road in the same way that they treated Island View, Grist Mill, and recently Crooked Rapids, where you do the road over 2 years. So the first year you put the road to gravel, and that way you find all the bad spots. And then the next year you do the surface treatment. So if council wanted to go about it that way, you could probably take that and bring it down to 100,000. Just for council's consideration.
And do we know, is Jessup Road on our asset management plan for work in 2022?
So through the mayor, Jessup Road was not identified for 2022.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have it.
Councillor Robinson?
I was just wondering if there are roads that are not on the list that should be. Specifically speaking, are there ones that were scheduled that others have taken precedent over?
So through the mayor, what we will do for the next presentation is we'll actually bring that document to council and show you basically where you are with roads. And so that information will be provided with the next budget.
Thank you.
So as I had mentioned, the draft budget as presented does have a deficit of approximately 664,000. And as the CAO has mentioned, one option for balancing the budget is to eliminate the $500,000 contribution to reserve for 2022 and to reduce the scope of the Jessup Road project to only include the gravel and minor repairs, and which would reduce the cost to $100,000. And so that would result in a balanced budget. Does council have any other comments or questions about the draft budget as presented?
Councillor Buckle?
Through the mayor, I think the doing Jessup Road in 2 phases would be the idea, because it's worked well on the other roads that we've done, and again, it gives you a chance to see where the problems are. I do have a problem or a concern about not contributing to reserves. Because once you start that, it's a lot easier to keep doing that, and then we wind up behind the 8 ball. Maybe we have to adjust that number for a year to bring things into line a little bit better, but I certainly wouldn't want to see it totally taken out.
Councillor Schultz?
I would have to agree. I think it's always important to put money in reserves. I think the one thing this year that we didn't anticipate last year was the COLA amount, and that has increased all the salary lines, which I mean is just one of the things that has contributed to an increase that we never anticipated last year.
Councillor Buckle?
And through an extra question for the clerk. So you indicated that there's a 5% increase in revenue. Is that by adjusting the tax rate, or is that through other changes?
So like I said, that was just a preliminary number, so it's just a 5% increase on last year's taxation.
So one of the, and I appreciate the fact that Andy's gonna bring back a more detailed report on roads. I'm not sure I agree with even moving forward on Jessup Road at this point, because I know there were other roads last year on our list that there's no indication that we're putting any money towards them this year. And maybe staff could just give us an indication. I don't know how bad Jessup Road actually is compared to some of our other roads, and does it really need any attention this year, other than maybe patching?
So staff, as the CEO mentioned, staff can bring that report to the next budget meeting.
Councilor Buckle?
And just through the mayor, if we could get an update too on the status of roads that you had worked on last year, so that they were completed. Because I know Royal Pine, we were looking at doing in phases, so I don't believe that was finished last year. But I don't see anything on this year's budget for it, unless I'm missing it somewhere.
So we'll bring forward from there a detailed account, but the roads that were scheduled for last year are all on this budget, so you can see where things are, and of course, Michelle mentioned that we don't have the actuals on there. She did move everything over, and I'm, just because I haven't been involved a lot, I'm wondering if Royal Pines and Black Creek are actually switched around. And so I'm going to get that information for council. So I think you're looking at a clear picture of what you didn't do. And the only one really added was Jessup, and so council wanted to consider that one.
So then, just from my own understanding, so all these other ones from last year that didn't get done, they're all covered as far as funding goes for this year?
Yes, so just for the mayor, what the clerk treasurer does is she puts on last year's budget, so you see all the capital projects, so you'll see some that have been done, for example, Lynch Lake Road, where there's nothing scheduled for this year.
Right.
So, but you see all the projects from last year because they're not on for you. Councilor,
Through the mayor, photograph this, because it's only going to cost $370,000 to finish that road.
so through the mayor, based on prices that we've had and based on last or this year's calculation, it is going to cost a considerable amount to do that road with the circular treatment and some culvert treatments that have to be done on that road.
I'm guessing part of that increase is the cost of oil going up and just all material costs going up as well.
That's correct, yes. Yes, that figure is based on completing 4 kilometers of the road.
And I would also agree with councillors, Schoenfeld and Buckwell, that I don't like not putting anything into reserves. You can live with reducing it, but we know we have a huge deficit in trying to maintain the roads we have, especially if we want to keep the ones hard surface that are currently hard surface. Councilor Schoenfeld.
I know it's a balance, right? So when I look at the speed signs, I mean, I think they're an important safety factor to have, but maybe it's something that we don't have to have in this budget. The other thing, when I'm driving on some of the other roads, it appears that they put a permanent post up, and I think they mount the sign to it. So when I'm driving, I see it, and I don't know how that township rotates it around, but I don't know if those costs less or not. maybe something like that is a better use of those signs than not. And, no, once again, it's a big balance. And when I look at that one where it says, common materials and supplies, is that the one where it says 50,000? So in actual fact, are we budgeting 60,000? Sorry, right there, right where you're, just down from where your cursor is. Yeah, so is that actually $60,000?
So no, so last year's allocation was 40,000,
Okay,
and we're increasing it by an extra 10,000 this year. So the allocation for 2022 is 50,000. So it is that listed.
and I'm even questioning the $90,000 for council of furniture and for heating and flooring. At this point in time, I'm not saying that it's not a good thing to do, but is it something that we have to do for next year? Realizing I know the costs will go up and stuff like that, but in terms of, I don't know what the office furniture was, but I mean, I think in life there's always wants and needs, and we might want it, but do we need that? Just throwing it out there.
And as council can recognize, so this is a preliminary budget based on department's wish list and information provided from council. So at this point, I am looking from direction from council how they would like to proceed moving forward.
So like when I look at the speed sign and then the $90,000 for the furniture and stuff, that's $100,000. That is, to me, a substantial amount that we might not have to spend unless there's a really good reason why.
Councilor Buckland?
Yeah, just through there, I'm just wondering whether is there a structural issue with the flooring here? Or what was the rationale for redoing the floor?
So through the mayor, it was discussed in a previous year, we did the one side, and we're going to do the other side. The reason that we added the N4 heating to this was that, or is that, the heating in this building comes from above. So your heating ducts are traveling to the uninsulated attic, and your efficiency is being lost. So the suggestion is if you're going to do the floor, do the heat at the same time. And to do the heat, we need to bring the floor up a little bit so that we can run the ducts, because if we do in-floor heating, it's going to be a significantly different cost.
Councilor Robinson?
Two comments through the mayor. One, sort of stepping in on the conversation with the heating of the floors. Is there a cost savings for us to do that versus where it is right now? That's one question.
So through the mayor, doing the version with the floor is eventually going to be a cost saving. It's going to pay for itself eventually. It's not going to be 5 years, it's probably going to be 15 years.
Okay.
And you had another question, Councilor Robinson?
Yes, there was another question. It's to do with back to the roads. I know we just finished Let's Cemetery, but I drove by there one Sunday, not this past Sunday, and there was an accident right at the corner off Highway 41 and Let's Cemetery, and the person basically went into the ditch primarily because they didn't realize that there was a curve at the very top of Let's Cemetery. And I'm wondering from a signage point of view, if, you know, like quite often when there is a significant curve, there is an arrow sign to indicate that there is that curve coming. And, you know, we've just beautified Let's Cemetery, and if that would be something, what would the cost be to install something like that?
So through the mayor, we've gone through the process of rebuilding that cemetery, re-engineering that cemetery, and our consulting engineers do not recommend that signage would be required there, or other places where there was signage recommended it's changed. If council desires to put a sign, we can put a sign up. There was no request from the Ontario Provincial Police or any other service to put a sign up. But we can look at it, and the cost of the sign is probably going to be under $500.
Okay.
Councillor Buckle?
And through the mayor, just council's information, there were some extenuating circumstances with that motor vehicle collision that I don't believe were related to the road. But that's all I can say at this point.
Yeah, okay. I suspected, but I mean, I drive that almost on a daily basis. And I've seen, people doing some weird things as they go around that corner. And that was the only reason I made that comment.
Councillor Reggie-Jean-Paul?
Through the mayor, I'm just wondering, it seems like our council expenses have increased quite a bit from the budget of 129,800 to the projected 22 budget of $245,000. Is there anything we can do as council to increase that amount?
Take up $90,000
Yeah. So you have your $9,000 for the council manager and for heating and flooring, as we just discussed. Also, we have the cost for the election for 2022, which can't be removed.
See, I think that line through the mayor is in a weird position because I don't think that $90,000 is really a council expense. To me, it's a capital expense of our building, and the same with the, I think that would be in a better line, because it sure makes it look like, when you read the bottom line, that we are ridiculously over.
And we can review that for next presentation.
Councillor Buckle?
Through the mayor, just something, have we considered, instead of running our heat through the ceiling, going through the walls from the furnace room and across, and putting, it would give us a heat source in that corner. Wouldn't do anything for over here. I'm just wondering if that would address some of our heat loss issues upstairs. I realize it would be encroaching the ceiling in that space, but.
So through the mayor, we did look, the only reason we looked at the indoor heating is because we were discussing going further to the floor. If it's council's desire, we can look at other options for heating efficiency in this room.
I'm just thinking that from a cost, if we don't need to do this floor structurally, it's okay. I'm just thinking that we could address the heat maybe in a less expensive manner.
And I would agree, certainly, even if you have exposed
I would
duct
agree.
by the chambers.
Yeah, all the way along that wall.
Yeah, we could provide heating. And I'm wondering, rather than, I tend to agree, the 90,000 for this year, I think, especially with the election expenses as well, would be, if nothing else, we put some money in a reserve and then keep it on our list for a subsequent year. That's what I could jump on.
To the marathon, right? I mean, it's just, and remember, I get the whole thing is that they've worked a long time on this budget, but it's just a draft. So what we're trying to do is whittle that deficit away. So I'm not sure the cost of that office furniture, $15,000, is maybe some of it has to be bought, but is it something else that we can look at, like deferring until another time? Get the stuff that you really need. I'm not sure what they really needed. I'm not trying,
Michelle?
And we can look at those figures and present a report for next budget presentation.
Because when I look at the public works, they've asked for $14,000. So maybe both of those departments just have to look at a way and have their wants and needs list, and this is the stuff they really need, and this is what we want, and then we can pick and choose. I'm not saying that they're not important. I'm just saying maybe in today's budget, we can look at deferring some of those.
Councillor Buckle?
And just a question for clarification through the mayor. The Golden Lake Garage extension, is that going to be for additional length to accommodate the trucks?
That is for additional length, yeah.
Because I know it is pretty snug in there when you get that truck in, and you don't have much room for error as far as parking or even trying to do it with the trucks. So.
And Michelle, if you go up to, I'm not sure if it's revenue for the post office. Normally we get, I know it's not a lot, but we normally get an increase every year. Has that been included?
That hasn't been factored in, so that's another item I can look at.
Thank you. It's nice to see that our cottage rental revenue has increased. And I know there was some talk that maybe we could extend the months that we're renting. Is that still being considered?
Through the mayor, yes, and we have some inquiries.
Thank you. Councilor Byrne?
Through the mayor, another thing that we could increase there is a cottage rental. We're sitting about $800.
I agree.
Yes.
It increased.
There's a cottage on New Drive around up for $1,900 a week. We should really increase that one.
That's something else we can look at. Next meeting.
Thank you.
And so if there are other questions or suggestions from council, they could be sent by email to yourself.
It could, yes.
And when's the presentation again for the next budget? It's in January.
It's in January, I believe it's the second meeting, it's in January.
I was January 18th, so maybe not. Well, that would be our second meeting.
That's the second meeting in January.
Could
So
you
if you
repeat the
say,
date?
would it be prior to a regular council meeting?
We will look at scheduling, but this seems to work. It allows more time to review the record.
I stick to that.
And I would imagine if we have suggestions that you would like to get them at
Prior
least by the beginning of the new year.
to that meeting, yes.
What's being handed out?
You don't get one, sorry.
We unfortunately can't give us to council. We can send it to her. So basically, the next 10 years.
It's a 10-year asset management plan, Councilor Robinson, that we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
And staff has just said that they will email it to you.
Okay, thank you.
And through the mayor, just for council's information, probably obvious, there's a lot of zeros added to the 213 or 237,000. So that's 200, it's got the zero out, the 3 zeros out. So the expense is considerable. So the total amount over the 10 years is for 2.2 million. But you can see where you are. So what was scheduled for 2022 was actually Beeline. And one note is Island View is scheduled for 2027. Council went ahead with Island View 2.5 years ago.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Buckle.
And through the mayor, I've presuming that these numbers, since they came from Macintosh, Perry, haven't been updated into today's realities.
So through the mayor, these are ballpark numbers based on a formula that they used in 2017, and they would not be accurate numbers.
Councilor Martin.
Through the mayor, so Jessup's old is not even in there. It's 7 years.
Are there any other comments or questions for staff? I certainly appreciate the work that staff have done, and I think that there probably will be some more questions or comments coming back to staff after today's meeting. Just one question I had, I know you've been waiting patiently, Michelle, any word about our insurance premium for 2022 yet?
As of this morning, no, we have not received our renewal for 2022. Our broker has been in touch with the insurance company daily to see when it will be provided to us. The insurance company, however, has not done that yet.
And just for it, I believe you put in a 20% increase based on the county's numbers. The county initially was presented with a 29% increase on insurance, but after some negotiation with the insurance provider, it was reduced to 20%. But it still represents almost $500,000 increase from the county.
So yes, as I had received the renewal, I did include a 20% increase for 2022 for insurance costs.
Councilor Richardson.
Just, I was just thinking, so you know the mileage for the building inspector, does she not use like our vehicle? Like, does that not bring it down a little bit?
She does, yes, but you also have to factor in that there's a cost for fuel. That's included.
Okay.
So I'm not seeing any further budget questions. The next on our agenda then is a closed meeting. So I'll need a mover and a seconder to go into close, moved by Councilor Schoenfeld, seconded by Councilor Robinson. All in favor? And that's carried. Have to read what our closed was for.
Oh. Now.
Okay, so our closed meeting is pursuant to section 239(2)(b) of the Municipal Act. One personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. One proposed for pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And one for the purpose of educating or training the members. We'll need a mover and a seconder to come out of close. Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Robinson. All in favor? And that's carried. We're opposed. And so are we going to break for lunch now, or?
Well, your meeting's basically over.
You adjourn.
Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Buckwell, that this special council meeting adjourns at 11:45 p.m.
No, AM.
Sorry,
We're both looking at
I
that.
know, I was going to the directions.
11:45 a.m. All in favor?
Really long meeting.
That's carried, thank you.